Okay, hello everybody. Dr. Holly MacKenna from Dara Wellness. I'm here with the Big Easiest Ways to Wellness. Our episode is on values. So I am actually streaming in using my iPad because I've had some computer issues. I apologize for joining you late. So hopefully we'll be able to get going. We'll see how it is, right? Just let me know. Give me a shout out if you can see me and things are going through clearly. So I really wanted to talk to you guys about values today. One of the reasons this has come up for me is just really with everything that's going on. There's been a lot of emotional decision-making happening for all of us, whether it be due to the pandemic, the election coming up, the storms that are happening in the Gulf, all the things. So I thought a nice way to help folks take a step back from what might feel very emotional and overwhelming is to think about what is driving you. Your North Star is one way of putting it, really your values. So in traditional medicine, which is where I started my career, we ask our patients, what's the matter? What's going on? What brings you in today? And that really drives the conversation in a way that is very focused on people's problems and what their problem list is. You might be familiar from going to more of an insurance-driven model, that 15-minute appointment, you have 14 problems and your doctor says, well, we got to pick two because that's all the time we got. And you're kind of leaving everything else over here on a shelf, hoping in the next appointment you're going to get to it, or making sure you have a list because you know you only have so much time with your doctor, right? So in integrative medicine, we actually changed the conversation. So we actually ask folks, what matters to you? So this is a completely different conversation. And it helps for me as an integrative psychiatrist, it helps me get to know you as a person. It also helps me know what is the best way for us as a team to progress, because someone, I might have two patients who have complaints of anxiety, who maybe have issues with their weight, maybe are pre-diabetic, because when I'm integrative, I'm considering all the things. But one may have values that is driven by spending more time with their kids, being outside, being there for their children. Another may have values that are more about work and really want to be able to progress in their job and need to spend a lot of hours at the office to really make that happen. Maybe they're a single person, they don't have family in the area. So that's a different set of circumstances, right? So both folks have what, if you just went with the cookbook version of medicine, the insurance check the box version, have the same diagnosis, but because they have a different way of looking at their life and different things that are important to them, we're going to have a very different approach because we want to honor what's important. And so really taking this a step out of like the medicine world or the integrative world where I live, this is like everyday life, right? So even just going to the grocery store. So I am, since I was in my 20s, I've been a version of a vegetarian. I call myself a New Orleans vegetarian because, especially living here, I love New Orleans seafood. I know because I've had chronic pain and inflammation in my life that having those omega-3s and that seafood is a really good thing for my diet. And I'm just kind of lazy, to be honest. Shout out to my vegan friends. I just don't have it in me to make sure I get enough protein. So I am one of those people who will eat fish and eat around meat. And I do it because it makes me feel good. I've been meditating since, I was in my college years and meditating on living things. I just feel like that's more in alignment with my values and with what's important to me. But I also have two small children and an Italian husband who I adore. So my husband will tell you, when we were dating, I put on gloves and made his grandmother's meatballs. New Orleans Fire Department may also tell you about it because I set off the fire alarm in the house, but that was because of the smoke. I didn't actually start fire. And I had some cute firemen come in and check it out because they had to make sure there's no fire. But anyway, that was important to me because I love my husband, you know, and we were courting. But also I still will, I may not like the smell of it, but I still like will make hot dogs for my daughter, make meat products, as I call them, for my son and for my husband, because I want to keep them healthy and happy. And because I feel like, for me, again, this is just my own choice with my family. I want to make sure my kids are getting all the nutrients they need. There's definitely a way to do that with a vegetarian diet with kids. But again, I'm just kind of, I have to make my choice about what is more important to me. So it's important to me to be able to have time with my children, to still work as an integrative psychiatrist, to do all those things. So I make the choice to do the hot dog or the chicken fingers or whatever it is that's going to save me time so I can still be with my family. So, you know, even when you're grocery shopping itself, I want to have, you know, look at the clean 15, the dirty dozen, and pick vegetables and fruits that are organic when I feel like it's important, and ones that maybe are okay because they have, you know, like a pineapple or what have you that has a hard outer skin. Maybe I can get that, like the conventional, and it's okay. But, you know, as the pandemic is here, like many of you, I have, you know, this is my business. I have a small business. I started as an integrative psychiatrist March 1st. I mean, I've been in, like, I've existed since January, but I've been active since March 1st. And as y'all know, like a week or two later, everything shut down. So I have to be very aware that my income is not what it once was when I was working in the corporate medicine world. Now it's more dependent on folks coming in or not coming in. And so I have to make choices when I go for grocery shopping. What is more affordable for my family? What is going to save me the time because I am a small business owner? What is going to help me personally feel safe with the pandemic as far as exposure? So these are all things that come into play, right? Like we think we're just making choices every day, but really there's bigger goals, bigger values at play. So taking a moment to think about what those values are is really going to help us when we're feeling emotional and overwhelmed and uncertain of what our choices are, to maybe move ourselves into a place where the choices are a little more apparent to us. Another example of this is with voting. You know, I know that this can be an emotional topic for folks, but hence the reason to look at what your values are. So it can be a little more in alignment with those, so you feel more comfortable when you go and cast your ballot. I find I'm a child of immigrants. My parents came over after getting married from Ireland, and they eventually became American citizens, but my mom, before she became a citizen, would always say, well, I've made 3 citizens. And so for me, voting was always something that I needed to do, something that I felt was my duty as a citizen, because I have family that worked so hard to get me here. So, you know, folks maybe who have different ways of growing up or had parents with different values maybe didn't consider that. I know a lot of folks are just now registering to vote or just recently registered to vote. So thinking about that, thinking about the importance of your voice being heard, thinking about what part of your voice you want to be heard, what's most important to you. You know, watching the debate last night, for example, I saw a lot of conversations with people from different viewpoints, which is great. It's wonderful to have constructive conversations where we're listening to each other and having ideas go back and forth. I know a lot of women express frustration at how some of the debate went. And it's interesting because I saw different viewpoints from women as far as where their frustration lied. I am a working woman, as y'all know, and I was in a leadership position in my previous job for a decade, and so have often been the only woman in the room. In meetings where I feel like I'm not only representing myself, but representing other women, representing women of color, which obviously I'm not, representing men as well, because I was supervising quite a number of people. So when I'm in that situation, I have felt the frustration of not feeling heard. I've experienced being talked over and ignored. And so for me, seeing that happen in a debate setting really caused a lot of physical reaction and frustration, which it took me a moment to figure out where that was coming from. So, I'm coming from that set of circumstances. I'm also coming from a place where I value having representation in leadership positions that look like me and look like other women, because of my experiences. Now, I've seen other women and men who maybe had frustration over the moderator, who happens to be a woman, and her not keeping things in control. I found that interesting, contrasting that with the frustration of the man in the debate, talking over both women. So it really depends on what your value system is, right? Is it more important to you that a woman be polite and act a certain way, or is it more important that she do what she needs to be heard and to represent? And again, this is your values. This is what you have to decide for yourself. Is it more important that people follow the rules that are given and answer the questions in front of them? Or is it more important that they represent the party that they're there for in a way that's going to get them elected? Again, you have to make that choice, and you have to then vote accordingly. I mentioned feeling like when I've been in meetings as a woman, the importance of having that representation. I have been very fortunate in a lot of ways over the past year or so. I've had a lot of difficult things happen, but nothing terrible, but things that I've had to figure out. And I think most of us have had that happen with the past 6 months or so. But I happened upon a number of physician groups, and I was very lucky to have a wonderful colleague in integrative medicine tell me about Empowering Women Physicians group, which I ended up in. And that's actually opened a lot of doors for me, just by women sharing other opportunities. And it really made me realize, when I took a step back, that throughout my medical career, and I've been a physician since 2000, so even before that, when I was in medical school, I didn't have a lot of women to look up to. I was trying to think of what women professors I've had as in my medical career. I could probably count them on one hand, frankly. And honestly, it was when I was an undergraduate at Duke that I even had any type of woman mentor. They had a program available for undergrads interested in medicine, and I was able to connect with some female physicians, one in particular who would take me to lunch and kind of help me navigate things. But really, once my medical school did not have that, my residency certainly did not. I did 2 residencies, and there were a couple of older residents, females, who gave me a hand up, but there were a lot that didn't. And unfortunately, that's not uncommon in the working world for women, right? Like, we are so underrepresented that sometimes there's a tendency or a temptation to push other women down because we are worried that there's only one seat at the table for us. But I can't help but think of Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who said, how many women should be on the Supreme Court? 9. Like, why not? There have been 9 men for how long? So just because you don't have enough seats at the table doesn't mean you can't open another seat. And again, this is about your values. What's important to you? Is it more important for you to feel like you're the one and only, or is it important for you to pull other people up along the way? And only you can answer that. But it's something to think about, especially, again, when we're looking at things like elections, when we're looking at how we want this pandemic to go, how we want our government to respond, how we want to be as human beings, and how we want to be with those around us and our families, how we want to be examples for our families, how we want the children in our lives to grow up and what they want to see in us as adults. All things that we have to decide for ourselves. Yeah, super important, right? I really can't say that enough. The folks in the New England Journal of Medicine just came out with an editorial talking about the pandemic and talking about the lack of leadership with the pandemic and talking about the people who've died from the pandemic and the need for change. And, you know, again, it's going to depend on your values. Some people might feel like physicians aren't allowed to have any type of view outside of medicine, whereas others may realize physicians are looked upon as leaders. There's a reason that when you look statistically at people's behaviors changing, how just having your primary care doctor asking you about your smoking every time can lead to smoking cessation, right? There's an element about having that role as a physician that makes you a leader in your community. And so when you're in that kind of role, my values are aligned with feeling that there's an element of responsibility with that. And so you need to speak up. And so I am proud of my colleagues from the New England Journal of Medicine for doing that, for venturing out and doing something different and making that statement. It's important, it's lives. And so that's, as a physician, something that's definitely high on my value list is keeping people safe. My patients, my future patients, all my community. I want everyone to stay safe and to do what they need to do to continue to be safe. However that looks, whether it be with the pandemic, whether it be in their interactions with police, whether it be in protests, whatever it may be, I want people to be safe. And I want them to live long, healthy lives and eventually not need any of us physicians because you're just doing so great. That would be awesome. So again, it's going to be a matter of looking at what's important to you and taking that step back. It can be with anything. I mentioned the pandemic, I mentioned the voting, with these storms in the Gulf, looking at what's important to you. We've had folks on like Chef Amy, we've had folks on who are doing things in their community and who are probably gearing up, ready to go when the storms come in case they cause problems for our neighbors, or in case it does a turn and causes problems for us. These are things that really show us what our values are, show us what's important to us. Even when you're looking at the possibility, as we were earlier in the week, of it coming here, taking a step back and thinking, like, what would you bring with yourself? Like, what would you take if you needed to evacuate? And that oftentimes will speak to your values, speak to what's important to you. The more I've been in this pandemic and the more I've had to make choices about, what bill to pay and what activity is safe, I've realized the most important thing to me is my husband and my kids and my dad's stethoscope. And that's, and there's a few other little things here and there, but most other things are replaceable. And frankly, that's what I've been able to learn from, dealing with what we've been dealing with. And so, a lot of these things can help us decide what our values are. Looking at any day-to-day thing, finances is a big thing. I know a lot of people are struggling right now. A lot of, finances aren't just about the dollars and cents that are coming out and that you're seeing in and out of your pocketbook. It's also about the relationships. What are you spending your money on? What's important to you? I have had to look at, do I want to keep paying this donation, or do I want to put money into this savings, or it really can get even more basic. Do I want to pay for my medicine, or do I want to pay for my kids' food? It really can get that down to those dollars and cents. And that's about your values. That's about what's more important to you. Is your pride more important to you? Or can you go get some food stamps? right? I mean, I was on food stamps after Katrina. My mom had to remind me, like, it's your money, you put it in there. So, you make those choices. So again, looking at your values, deciding what's important to you. These are the ways that you can make these choices, even when they feel emotional. So take a step back, take a moment. Hopefully this weekend will be peaceful enough for us that you can do that. So for more information or to reach out, if you are interested in integrative psychiatry, please check out my website, darawellnessnola.com. I'd be happy to talk to you. I have free consultation calls if you're at all interested. You can also check out other episodes of The Big Easiest Ways to Wellness. And you guys enjoy your Thursday. Hopefully we'll have a nice quiet weekend with the storms, maybe just some nice pleasant rain that help us relax, and not much more than that. So yeah, it's great talking to you guys. I appreciate it. Take care.